This episode is brought to you by DistroKid.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
It's Throwback Thursday.
Hey everybody, Chris DeMakes, a podcast producer. Chris Fafalius here. As you know, St. Patrick's Day is coming up next week. As a guy who's 0% Irish, I can't claim that I have a deep connection to St. Paddy's Day, but I do like the fact that it kind of marks the fact that spring is on its way. Now, I remember times in Pittsburgh where it was warm this time of year, and I also remember some snowy St. Patrick's Days, but mostly I remember the one time that I had to drive through the south side of Pittsburgh as the bars were letting out on St. Patrick's Day weekend, like that Saturday, and it felt like the apocalypse. People were stumbling into the streets, they were trying to climb into my car, and there were people fighting on the sidewalk. It was chaos. But that actually sounds like good subject matter for a song. And speaking of that, this week for Throwback Thursday, we're going back to March of 2023 when Dave King came on the show to discuss the writing and recording of Flogging Molly's Drunken Lullabies. This episode is awesome. Dave is so cool, and the story behind this song is super interesting. So I hope you all enjoy it. And as usual, don't forget to check out our Patreon at chrisdemakes.com. Tons of bonus episodes and videos over there. You can even join as a free member so you can see what it's all about. And then maybe at some point you'll decide to pull the trigger and actually join. We depend on your support to keep making the show. So thank you for either joining or considering joining. Either way, thanks. Okay, here we go. From March 13th of 2023, this is episode 146 of Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Dave King discusses Flogging Molly's Drunken Lullabies.
Hey everybody, welcome to our St. Patrick's Day episode. And we couldn't have thought of a more fitting guest than Dave King, guitarist and lead vocalist for the Los Angeles, California Celtic punk rock band Flogging Molly. Together, we take a deep dive into the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the fan-favorite song, Drunken Lullabies, taken from their 2002 album of the same name. I told Dave that I've enjoyed watching his career, and how he was able to reinvent himself over the years, without losing who he was, which is no small feat. Dave was very complimentary towards producer Steve Albini, whom he credits with letting the band be themselves. He wasn't there to mess with the formula. Instead, his sole job was to capture the pure essence of this awesome band. And he did. Dave spoke about the lyrical inspiration and how he was always hopeful that things would turn around politically in Ireland, even at times when it felt hopeless. I love how the imagery and subject matter of the lyrics are very dark, but when paired with this insanely upbeat and positive music, it gives that feeling of hope, that feeling that everything will be just okay. So sit back, pour yourselves a pint of Guinness, and let's sing some drunken lullabies.
Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast.
Well, hey, Dave, how you doing today?
Chris, how are you? Good to see you.
Well, I am really excited that you're sitting in with us for our St. Patrick's Day week episode. So this is really, really awesome.
Yeah. A real life leprechaun. There you go.
Well, I couldn't think of a much better band to celebrate the holiday with, so thank you. And I got to tell you, I have been just so excited to talk to you, Dave. You know, I've met you over the years. We did the Flogging Molly cruise back in 2017. Thank you for that opportunity. And I just never had a chance to tell you what I'm about to say. You know, I've followed your career for a long time. And I remember Joe Sib from Side One Dummy. This would have been maybe 1999, 2000. And you'll probably get a kick out of this because, you know, people from LA, and this is before, 2000's kind of pre-internet. People from LA always assume that you know what's going on in LA. And Joe comes up all excitedly at like a Warped Tour. He's like, "We signed the Mollies." I'm like, "Who?" He's like, "Flogging." I'm like, "Who?" You know, because you guys had been a thing in LA at that point for a number of years.
Yeah.
You were playing around. You built up this following, you know. And the next thing I know, you guys are on Warped Tours. The band is completely blowing up. And I don't know when it was after that. A couple years later, someone tells me that the Dave King that's in Flogging Molly is the same Dave King that played in a band I loved growing up called Fastway. And you want to talk about doing a double take, because Dave, as you know, not many people get to reinvent themselves like you have. And here you are now in the back half of your career in Flogging Molly, longer than you were in any of your other bands. It's so cool, and congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was an amazing journey, to be honest with you. I mean, I was very lucky when Fast Steady, Lord rest his soul. I mean,
yes, sorry about that.
Himself, Lemmy, and Filthy Phil. I mean, they're all somewhere now making a lot of racket. But yeah, I was very lucky. I had a demo that from a band I had in Ireland, and I said to my mother, I said, he left Motorhead, and I was like, "Man, I want to try out for this." And I sent off the demo, Chris, not thinking for a second I would hear anything back. And lo and behold, I was in town one day. I got back to my mom's flat, and there was a bicycle outside the flat door. And it was my friend from Donnybrook, because we didn't have a phone. So I gave him his number, and it was his brother. And he's like, "You got to get on the Crossbar. Fast Eddie just called and wants you to go to London." I was like, "What?" So we went up, and long story short, did the Fast Week thing, got to tour with bands like AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Rush. I mean, it was incredible, you know. And then I went back to Ireland for a while. We had a band together there, and it was doing very well. It was a little band called QED. We got a publishing deal with Virgin, I do believe. And once again, we were making a name for ourselves in Ireland. We were getting very popular. But it got to a point where it stopped. So I got an offer from the days of Fastway. I got an offer in America, from Geffen at the time, to get a band together. And would I be interested in flying to LA? So I did. And that's where it all started to happen.
Were you disillusioned at that point? You know, you had run taken Fastway as far as you could, and here you were. You had again another band with some success in Ireland, but basically you're starting over at that point. Did it feel like that, or did it just feel like this was another continuation of your career?
It felt like a continuation of my career when I got together and formed a band called Kathmandu, or as Bridget, my wife, likes to call it, Kathmandu. But what's great about it is our drummer in Flogging Molly, Mike Alonso, is the drummer in Kathmandu all those years ago.
Okay.
But we got this band together, and it was, you know, your typical, it was kind of a hair thing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel good. And here's where it really gets weird. Dan Orman said to me, he goes, "Listen, we want you to leave the band. We want you and Jeff Beck to get together and form a group."
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, you know, they dangled this carrot in front of me, and, you know, the band Kathmandu had also kind of peaked. We were big in Japan, which tells you everything, like in those old days.
Sure.
So I left the band, and then the whole Jeff Beck thing started to fall apart because Jeff, Lord rest him as well. I mean, Jesus.
I know.
He was really obviously big into his cars, and he was really into, you know, working on his car. So that kind of fell apart. So Epic Records, the label, offered me a solo deal, and I started writing demos. And Mike, our drummer now, was actually on those demos. and I got a solo deal with Epic Records. So that's when I started. There was mandolins coming out. There was more folkiness coming out because I was writing them on guitar. But I think what happened was I made a demo. They gave me a deal, and I went on recording these demos. And I brought the demos in, and they brought me into the office in Epic Records in LA, and they played the demos, and they said, "This is great, but we kind of hear you more like this." And they put on Michael Bolton.
Oh, how?
I don't know. Maybe the receding hairline. I've no idea. But and this is no word of a lie, Chris. I said to them, "Listen, drop me right now, because this isn't going to go any further."
Yeah.
So I left that office, and a month later or so, they informed me that they did drop me. So I ran into an old manager of mine who was the tour manager for Fastway in LA. He was managing bands at the time. I said, "Well, listen, I'll give us a hand here, And he basically said to me, he said, "Dave, you don't want to do this stuff anymore." He said, "You're going to have to pick up a guitar and go to the bars and play in the bars." And that's what I did. I started painting houses and going to the bars at night and playing songs that I'd written.
Now, this is in LA.
Yes, this is in LA.
And telling someone to go out and play bars in LA is pretty daunting. Where do you begin? How do you build up? I mean, there's just everybody's there trying to do the same thing as you.
Yeah, well, it was completely new to me because I'd never built a career. I was just, 18 and I was in Fastway. So that's what happened, and I'd never worked at it. I didn't deserve that. I didn't sweat blood for that. Yeah, I could sing, but it was like being on American Idol or something. I just sent the demo tape and got accepted. This was going to be hard work, and if it was going to happen, it was going to happen my way, Chris. And that was it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's incredible. And like I said, there's not too many people that get to reinvent themselves, that get to be somebody, and then, hey, now I'm doing this Celtic punk influence band.
But you see, the thing is as well, though, Chris, I was never myself. Even when I was in Fastway, I was never myself. I mean, I'll tell you a crazy story. I was with Angus Young from AC/DC, and he said to me, he said it, he didn't say it in an arrogant way. He said it in an actual fact way. He said, "We in AC/DC, we don't care if the Beatles or the Rolling Stones go on before or after us. We'll always be AC/DC." And I didn't know what he meant at the time, Chris. But when Flogging Molly rehearsed as 7 people for the first time in LA, there was something else in the room. And I said to myself, I think I know what he was talking about now, And so that's when it really felt like I was actually doing something that I worked to get together,
Oh man, that story I got full chills, goosebumps, because that is so profound what he said.
Yeah,
I've said that before. No one's ever going to be me. They don't have my DNA, my cells. They can't be. Who am I?
Yeah.
And sometimes as an artist, you question that.
But when you're young, you're trying to be everybody. You're just trying to like do everything. But like when he said that to me, it really because I said to myself, well, I don't have that. I don't have that. And now being in Flogging Molly, like when we got Flogging Molly, that X factor that was in the room was that it didn't matter who played around us. We were going to be Flogging Molly, and that was it.
Right. Right. That is awesome. Well, you guys have released 7 studio albums. The first one, Swagger, came out in 2000, your debut. And your latest one is Anthem from last year, 2022. Yeah. And the song we're going to talk about today is Drunken Lullabies, the title track from album number 2 that was dropped in 2002. And can you take us back? Was this a song that you had sitting around, maybe left over from the first record, something you were playing in the bars around LA, or was this written specifically for the record?
Couldn't tell you.
Good answer.
I don't know, because I think that was one of the first riffs that I wrote on a banjo. I got myself a banjo, and it being upside down as well, it actually suited me because the chord structures were like I was playing a guitar, the way a banjo was strummed. So I think that was one of the first songs I wrote on a banjo. So I wouldn't say it was written around the time of Swagger, but it was definitely learned from being on the road with Swagger, like being doing the shows in LA. I knew what was connecting with the audiences maybe and stuff like that. But there was a definite trajectory in the sense that after the album Swagger, and we played a few shows around, we knew there was something going on, and we knew that we were doing something that was, it was honest, you know what I mean? It was
right.
It was just felt right. And also what happened was, when I did come in '89 to get Kathmandu together, I received an O1 visa from the government, which meant I wasn't taking anybody's jobs, and therefore the visa didn't have an end date. But unfortunately, during those years between Kathmandu and Flogging Molly, the laws changed, and my O1 visa had in fact ran out. So I couldn't leave America for 8 years, and we had just gotten the band really together. So I think that moment, I felt like I was in exile. I couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't go to Canada. We couldn't go to Canada and play. We couldn't go anywhere, Chris. We just had to concentrate what we were doing in America. So I think I felt like I was in exile.
Right.
I think I really started to hone in on a living room back in Dublin, Ireland, where I grew up as a kid, and the music that I listened to, that my parents listened to, that became to the forefront because I wanted to get back to that. But I wanted to bring the audience with me to that room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, there's definitely something authentic about your band. It's not an act, you know, and again, like I said, you take it for face value. A guy that was in this heavy metal band, this hard rock thing, to turn and do this, it's like, okay, is this real? It couldn't be more real. And what I mean by that is, I mean, you've done the Celtic festivals, you've done the circuit long enough where you get some, you know, American dude with, you know, gets a band together and they claim they're, you know, Irish authentic music, you're listening going, you know, and it's just, you guys are obviously the real deal. And you know, my grandmother used to have a term for bands, a lot of country western bands, Irish bands. She called it shit kicking music, and that's that's what I refer. When I think of you guys, I think of my grandma in that term, because I've seen your band in Europe, Germany, Australia, the States, and you get up there, and regardless if anybody knows the material or has heard the band, the place just lights up. It's just fun. You can't help but like it.
I think the one instant I remember that was actually with you guys when we were doing the Warped Tour. Mm-hmm. The first time we did the Warped Tour, and we were on stage and nobody knew who we were, and we were on one of the side stages, and we started off deliberately, I have to say, with a song called The Likes of You Again. And we started off with that song because it starts off with just me on acoustic. And then the fiddle comes in, accordion, bit of mandolin, and then the whole band kicks in.
He's watching over me. 2, 3, 4.
And I always remember, Chris, looking at the people's faces, and I'll start off, and the fiddle, and people are looking around at each other going, what's going on here, you know? Yeah. And then we kick in, and you've seen all these smiles, and the next minute, just a pool of dust. And that was it. Yeah. Shit kicking, you know?
Yeah, no, and you guys were just completely embraced by the Warped Tour crowd. I mean, you became one of the must-see bands at Warped Tour, and it was so cool to witness.
Yeah, they were fun times, weren't they, Chris? I mean, nobody has a solution, but I don't know about you, but I miss the Warped Tour in the sense, not for bands like Less Than Jake or Flogging Molly, but for young bands. You know, the opportunities that we got from that tour, you know, was amazing. And that is so lacking today
I know, and I've talked about that on this show. My band owes so much to Kevin Lyman and the Warped Tour. I mean, we built a career out of going out every other summer, and there was always a new batch of 13 to 15, 16-year-old kids that had no idea who my band was. And you can't put a price on that.
No, we were very, very lucky, Chris. We know that.
Yes, absolutely.
But at the same time, it's like, God, I wish there was something that was going on like that now for young bands, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I show my age sometimes. I say, man, I don't know what I would do if I started out as a band right now. Where do you begin, right?
It's not showing your age, Chris. It's a fact.
Sure.
You know, it's an absolute fact. I mean, you know, without the Warped Tour, Less Than Jake and Flogging Molly and hundreds of other bands would not have had a chance to do what they wanted to do.
I know that we could just be a footnote of 90s punk at this point.
Yeah.
I've said that so many times, and it's amazing what a tour like that did, especially if you got accepted and you were part of it as we were, and we, you know, every 2 years the fans were expecting us to show up. It was fantastic. Yeah. Dave, I want to jump into the track right now. I've been dying to break this down. I probably listened to this song. I've heard it many times, but probably listened to it 30 or 40 times over the last 2 days, and I got in there, buddy. So I want to hear what this one's about. It's 3 minutes and 50 seconds. That intro is 8 bars of the banjo, the hi-hat and kick drum, followed by 8 bars full band, drums, bass. I hear some distorted stereo guitars, the banjo pan kind of right. I think that's a fiddle off left, and maybe some acoustic guitar in here. Is that about right?
Yeah. I mean, quite honestly, the only bar I know is the one I drink in, but I always loved that about Irish music, in the sense that there was always highs and lows in it. You know, there was a lot of theatrics in it, you know, and I really, you know, listening to bands like the Dubliners and the Pogues and the Clancy Brothers, you know, people like that, who at their time were great punk bands. Yes. You know, even though they didn't have a drum kit or a bass drum or a bass guitar, to me, they were still punk rock. And like a song like Drunken Lullabies is a great punk song, not only musically, but lyrically in the sense as well, you know. I really wanted to, I think it was those 8 years that I wasn't allowed to go anywhere that really made me dig in. And that song in particular, Drunken Lullabies, it's about really, I remember being a kid and I'd go to the pub with my mother and they'd be talking about the troubles in Ireland, but you never felt like anything was being done about it. And that's what that song basically is about. It's about how long are we going to sit around the bars talking about this stuff and doing nothing about it? You know, when will this song never have to be sung again? You know, basically. And and guess what? Things changed. You know? Yeah. I mean, we had the Good Friday Agreement and things in Ireland started to change. So that song, from being written as not a morose song, but a song that you were, even though it was a new song when it came out, it was an old song in its history. You know, it was, Jesus, how long are we going to keep writing songs like this? You know? But now that's all changed. A change has actually been made, which is, now it's a celebration.
And that's what I always loved about punk rock. And you could have this, as you said, morose lyric, but how uplifting is this song? Yeah. You know, if you were singing about partying in the streets with the same song, it's still going to make you feel that way. You know, it just so happens that the lyrics are about the struggles and the troubles of what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, you know, being Irish as well, no matter how sweet you sing about a song, you're still like, there's always the darkness as well, you know? So you've got to mix. There's always something to moan about in Ireland, you know? There's always been that in the songwriting or in writing in general, you know? But there's always been a sense of humor.
That definitely comes across.
Yeah.
You know, especially with the live show.
Yeah. It's very important that at the end of the day, there has to be a bravery factor about it, because that's what brings in hopefully generations of people listening to songs. It is that hope, whether it be a naive hope or not. But we need hope.
Before we move on, was this tracked to tape or to Pro Tools?
Oh, tape.
It was taped to tape. Okay.
Yeah.
And the producer, Ted Hutt, which I followed Ted's career. Ted played with you guys for a while. He's produced records for Bouncing Souls, Dropkick Murphys, Violent Femmes, Brian Fallon, The Boss Tones, on and on and on. I love Ted's productions. And do you recall when Ted heard it? What did he think of the track?
Well, here's the thing, though, Chris. I mean, Ted didn't really produce the album because we recorded the album with Steve Albini.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did the first 2 albums, and our last album, Anthem, we went back to Steve Albini. No, what happened was we'd written these batch of songs. Actually, Ted was a part of writing Drunken Lullabies, but we came back to LA and Ted mixed the album.
Okay. Okay. Well, then that's where I got confused on Wikipedia. It said he produced it. Okay.
We did give him a producer's credit, but I mean, it actually was recorded by Albini. The songs were already arranged, and Ted mixed them in LA. And I used to go down with him, and we do it together or whatever. But I mean, with Albini, what was great about going back to Albini as well was discovering how we used to do things as well. Really just plug in and play, and that was it. And I think we took the 20 odd years of not recording with Steve, what we've learned in those years, and we went back to Steve. And the new album is basically like the first 2 albums in the sense that it's a live album.
That's what I was going to ask you, and that's where I was going with this. It sounds live off the floor, and I'll tell you the main reason why it's incredible. When I'm researching for these episodes, I will always rewind back, and I'll look at the first chorus to the second chorus, and I'll be listening for did an extra guitar part come in here, etc. On this track, I had went from the probably 3/4 through the song, there's like a musical interlude where the banjo comes back in, which we'll get to in a little bit. And when it came to that, it was like 6 or 7 clicks slower than the top of the song. I didn't realize it till I had rewound the song to the beginning. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great. Those ebbs and flows. That's a live band.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, we didn't know anything better anyway. You know what I mean? We were just doing what we did.
Yeah.
And what's great with working about Albini is Albini lets you do what you want to do. He's not one to butt in and go, well, and state the obvious pretty much. But he's such a great guy to work with in the sense that he lets you do what you want to do.
I've heard that about him. He wants to capture exactly who you are in a recorded sense.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to change who the band is, and I respect that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why we went back to him. Because what happens with every band is you get a couple of, you get noticed, and you get other people being brought into the fray, and they add their own thing in. On the last album we just did, Anthem, we just wanted to be us again. Just the 7 of us just being in a room and recording.
Was it hard to unravel that? Because as you learn and go along, or did it feel like, hey, this is familiar? It's like riding a bike. We're back to square one.
Yeah, no, it was like riding a bike. It was like,
yeah,
here we go again. Here's what we do.
Must it take a life for hateful lies to listen once again? 500 years like gelignite have blown us all to hell. What Savior rests while on his cross we die? Forgotten freedom burns. Has the shepherd led his lambs astray to the bigot and the gun?
Must it take a life for hateful eyes to glisten once again? 500 years like gelignite have blown us all to hell. What Savior rests while on his cross we die? Forgotten freedom burns. Has the shepherd led his lambs astray to the bigot and the gun?
Well, it's about growing up in a society where religion was the major factor in growing up in Ireland during my lifetime, which I'm glad to say is no longer the case. And I remember I was born in a British Army barracks in Dublin, the last British Army barracks that was ever there. My father was the first civilian to move into it. And that's where I was called Beggar's Bush. And because it was a project, it bred a lot of people who wanted to rebel. And a lot of people in Beggar's Bush, when I was growing up at the time, were involved in illegal organizations. And I was encouraged to join these organizations. I never did, because while I agreed with their sentiment, I didn't agree with the way they were trying to achieve it, which was through violence. And I didn't agree with that. Even as a young kid, I didn't agree with that. And many of my friends got involved in it and couldn't get out of it. In fact, a lot of them went to jail. And so that, I mean, it starts off with that anger of, I mean, where I was born, Chris, it was in a barracks, and it was surrounded by huge grey walls. And all around the walls were holes in the walls where the gunmen would shoot at the people on the street. So I was brought up with that in my mind. And as a kid, I had visions of soldiers doing that to people on the street. So it was all about that. It was still about religion, and it was still about being in a country that has been governed by another country for over 500 years. Angelic Night at the time was the go-to handmade bomb that people would go to in protest, you know.
Oh, geez.
So that was, yeah. And where I lived was a huge hub for that. And I seen it all around me.
Do you recall writing these lyrics? Were they in a notebook? Was it something you had written as kind of just stream of consciousness, a poem that you decided to put to music, or was this written specifically for the song? Do you recall?
Oh no, this would have been written for the song particularly. I mean,
it would have.
Yeah. I mean, I forget how I really do things in a way where it's music or lyrics first. I don't know, but no, I never meandered from the path of a song. Each song is its own thing.
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more with Dave King after a few words from our sponsors.
Join Stephen Page and his friends and family at the Stephen Page Summer Camp for several days of music, laughs, and community in the beautiful Catskill Mountains of New York State from June 30th to July 4th, 2025. Whether you are a musician or an enthusiastic fan, SPSC is designed to provide an inspirational and interactive experience, offering the opportunity to truly take a step beyond backstage. There, you'll write songs, hear stories, make friends, and create memories. There'll be workshops, Q&As, performances, comedy, fireworks, and the chance to sing in a camp-wide choir at the closing concert. This event is all-inclusive. There's a wide range of packages to choose from tent camping to shared rooms to private cabins. There's something for everyone. Scholarships are available. This event is presented by Music Masters Collective, a 501c3 not-for-profit. Their organization is funded by a combination of registration fees, grants, and sponsorships. In addition, the organization accepts scholarship donations, 100% of which are distributed directly to individuals seeking financial aid. Spots are extremely limited, so register today at www.stephenpagesummercamp.com/DeMakes. Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Your data is like gold to hackers. They're selling your passwords, bank details, and private messages. McAfee helps stop them. Secure VPN keeps your online activity private. AI-powered text scam detector spots phishing attempts instantly. And with award-winning antivirus, you get top-tier hacker protection. Plus, you'll get up to $2 million in identity theft coverage, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
Ready for your next adventure? KLM Royal Dutch Airlines brings you Real Deal Days. Your chance to uncover real adventures and create real memories. Taste the real Amsterdam, explore the real Barcelona, and discover the real Johannesburg, along with many more destinations around the world. Secure your real deal today and seize the moment with KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. Restrictions apply. See terms and conditions at klm.com.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
If you like music and you like podcasts and you like to laugh and you like to learn, you need to immediately subscribe to One Hit Thunder. Each week on the One Hit Thunder podcast, we dive deep into the story and back catalog of a one-hit wonder band or artist. From there, we have a good, healthy discussion as to whether they brought the one-hit thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit wonder. We have a huge back catalog, and we've done episodes on everything from Don't Worry, Be Happy and the Macarena to King of Wishful Thinking and Cumbersome. I promise you're going to love the show more than Jaquan loved getting tipsy, and even more than Bobby Boris Pickett loved making alternate versions of the Monster Mash. Subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your podcasts.
No matter where I put my head, I wake up feeling sound again. Green.
And now, back to the show.
You know what's interesting about this track, though, is that there's not really a rhyme scheme on it, which to me makes the vocals sound pissed off in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like Blue True, you know, like you're not getting those rhymes in here. And was that conscious? Because most songs that I break down, there's like, okay, the second and fourth line rhymes. Here's where you get or a soft rhyme, I call it, where they kind of rhyme a little bit. But here it's really, you know, it's hard.
Well, you see, that goes back to my days with Fastway, because I never felt like I was writing for myself. I always had to write under the banner of Fastway. And it never made me happy, Chris. I mean, I wasn't in a good space there. I was just a pawn, I felt.
Mm-hmm.
So when I felt like Flogging Molly was getting together, I felt like, you know what? And when I first started playing in the bars, I think the first song I wrote was Selfish Man.
Selfish man.
I said, get it out of the way. You might as well get this out of the way, you know. But yeah, so and from then on, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do and say what I want to say, and that's it. I'm not going to have to answer to anybody. I don't have to show these lyrics to anybody. I'm just going to do it the way I want to do it, because I did it for years where I would have to get the consensus of other members of the band if the lyrics were okay.
Yeah. There's always something when I break down songs that jumps out to me that I never realized before. And I've heard this song countless times. And all of a sudden now, as I really put the microscope on it, was like the rhyme scheme. I'm like, wow, that is really different to not. I mean, it's almost like you tried on purpose not to have rhymes with this thing. And it's so cool because I can't recall ever having that mindset. And I'm going to try to sit down and write a song that it doesn't need to rhyme. You know, it can be like this. Chorus 1 comes in pretty quick at the 50-second mark.
What's the take a life for hateful lies to glisten once again? 'Cause we find ourselves in the same old mess, singing drunken lullabies.
The lyric is, must it take a life for hateful eyes to glisten once again? Because we find ourselves in the same old mess, singing drunken lullabies. And we get a gang vocal on the third line, because we find ourselves in the same old mess. And it almost sounds like there's a gang on singing drunken lullabies, but it's pushed back in the mix from the other line. Do you know what I'm talking about? It almost sounds like maybe your voice is doubled there.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's been so long.
You've only recorded 6 records since then, Dave.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I don't think I can't remember with Flogging Molly ever doubling a track.
Okay.
You know, I might be in on the backing vocals, but that would be about it. Maybe they had me. Maybe they had me more forward. You know,
something else I had forgotten from verse 1. We do get the first gang vocal there after the line "have blown us all to hell."
Yeah,
to hell. That gang vocal happens, and you know those gang vocals are just such a part of punk music in general, but especially Irish music. It's just such an uplifting thing. So yeah, that last vocal there, singing drunken lullabies, it almost sounded like the gangs were still there, but they were really pulled back in the mix. I didn't know if that was intentional, and sounds like you don't know because you just don't remember having listened to it in a second. But following chorus 1, there's an 8-bar re-intro with the full band, and then we get into verse 2, and I'll tell you, what I love about verse 2 is instrumentally, it's pretty much the same as verse 1, except the fiddle, it's in the same world for probably 70%, but the notes and phrasing really change up. Have a fiddle player, so when you're in the studio, is it kind of like do what you want, improvisation, or is it usually all charted out?
Yeah, well, what's great about the fiddle is that with Bridget, you can start the song off in a certain register, and there's always room to move around that register, you know. And even though it's in the first verse and all that, and it's always nice to have that luxury of being able to bring in the fiddle in a different context, you know, by not adding another instrument. It's still the same.
Yes.
You know, but it's in a different context. Like the lyrics, it's like changing with the lyrics. And yeah, I mean, and a lot of it as well is being in the type of band that Flogging Molly is, you learn that how these fiddles and tin whistles and accordions and banjos work together, you know, because you could have an overload. I mean, you're always tempted, like, oh, let's throw the whole kitchen sink in here. But, but you've got to, you know, at the end of the day, when you're recording something, as you know, Chris, it's going to last forever, no matter who listens to it, if anybody listens to it. So I think you've got to be constructive in that way. But it is a luxury to have an instrument where it's got many different octaves and different, you know, realms of playing it, you know. And by the way, Bridget as well, like, Bridget's a real traditional Irish player. She played with the Chieftains when she was 16.
Oh,
I mean, she's played in pubs all over the world. I mean, that's what she does. She sits in bars playing fiddle with other musicians. So she improvises all the time. That's there as well, you know.
Well, going back to AC/DC, you know, it's been said they're the world's biggest bar band.
Yeah.
You know, like them and ZZ Top, and I'll include you guys in that too. And you know, to Bridget's credit, here she was, played every pub and hole in the wall there was.
Yeah.
All you're doing is just amplifying her on a big stage. It's gonna still sound like it's coming from the pubs.
I think the perfect description of that is it was actually her birthday, and we were in Holland, and there's this Irish pub in Holland. And we all said, well, let's go to this pub that we know in Holland, this Irish place. I forget the name of it, to be honest with Chris. So we all went over. Bridget, Matt, and the gang, they all sat in the corner and just, you know, Dennis, and we all start playing. I was playing the baron, and we just start playing Irish music. And the barman was behind the counter, and he goes, apparently he got on the phone or got on the internet or whatever. Next thing you knew, there was a line going around the pub. Right?
Oh, that's awesome.
So we were playing, this is no word of a lie, right? And we just played pure traditional Irish music, no Flogging Molly songs whatsoever. But the next day, we were playing with the Rolling Stones.
Oh, gosh.
That's the type of band Flogging Molly is. We can play in a pub and be quite happy, but we can also play with the Rolling Stones. I mean, it's mental. And that's going back to what Angus was saying with AC/DC.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
If you are who you are, you'll be heard, you know?
Yeah, and I'm proud of my band for that, because we can go play to 40 people, and it's like we're playing to 60,000 people at Hurricane Festival in Germany.
Absolutely. The energy that you guys have is like, it's infectious, you know? It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, you give it your all. It doesn't matter how many people are in attendance. Well, verse 2, I'm going to read the lyrics and have you set these up. I watch and stare as Rosin's eyes turn a darker shade of red, and the bullet with this sniper lie in their bloody, gutless cell. Must we starve on crumbs from long ago? Through bars these men made steel. Is it a great or little thing we fought? Knelt the conscience, blessed to kill.
Well, first of all, it's Roisin. Roisin's eyes.
Oh, Roisin, sorry.
And Roisin is the old, pretty much Gaelic name for Ireland.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I use that word in there to bring it back to that context, you know.
Wow. I've been to Ireland a ton. I'm sorry, I've never heard that.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I don't know if you remember, Tin Lizzy had a great song, Roisin Dove.
Well, the mountains mourn, come down to the sea. Will she know, come back to me? Will she know, come back to me?
But yeah, so it's all about, and it's about the young people that I was talking about being sent to prison. When I was growing up, they were in their own way trying to fight for freedom, but by doing what they were doing was no better than what was being done to us. You know. Yeah. So that's what that verse is about. It's you know, to take a life for hateful lies to glisten once again, because there was so much hope. Ireland, you know, it was a dire place to live in the 60s and 70s and the early 80s. But you knew, you know, you'd go to a pub or the conversation was always sparkling. Storytelling was always, every Irish person in their own way was a storyteller, you know. And a lot of it was make-believe in a sense that, let's put it this way, it was embellished, you know.
Sure.
Because they were adding their own angle on it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Plus, you're pouring alcohol on top of it.
Exactly. You know. So, you know, at a very young age, you learn to embellish the darkness of stories as well, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, but yeah, that verse is like, it's a great middle verse in the sense that I feel like it's stuck in the middle. You know, you couldn't move that verse to the first or the third verse. Say, it's stuck where it is.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask, well, first of all, is there a demo for this song? Do you recall?
No.
Okay. No. Okay. And you kind of answered my question. I was going to say, was verse 2 ever verse 1 and vice versa? But no. Okay. It has to be in this order.
Yeah. All our songs are like that, actually. No more so than Drunken Lullabies. You know, because if you remember, I remember, like, writing Drunken Lullabies was just writing another Flogging Molly song. You know, there wasn't any delusions of grandeur that this was going to be the barnstormer that it turned out to be.
Or the song that gets put on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4.
Yeah.
I mean, you could never imagine those things as a band. Like our song's gonna get picked up by a video game and turn into this thing that we never ever thought it would have legs like that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think the one thing that really hit me about songwriting, Chris, was that you're on Tony Hawk and you're in these. I think the most incredible thing like that ever happened is people come up to me and show me pictures of their family members' tombstones, and they've got my lyrics on them.
Oh wow!
You know, that's
heavy.
That's a whole different ballgame. You know.
Yeah, you can't put it into words. I have kids come up. I'm sure you've had this. You know, your lyrics have saved my life. And what do you say to that?
Yeah, well,
what you give them a hug? I mean, what else can you do?
Well, I think in some ways they saved their lives too. You know.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's the highest honor that can be bestowed upon a musician.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, chorus 2, same lyric as chorus 1. The back half of this one, I swear, on the line singing Drunken Lullabies, that the gang vocals are slightly louder on this one. Maybe it's the intensity of the song building, but it sounds like it's a little louder than the first time. And then we get into quite possibly my favorite part of the song. I love the bridge in this track because, you know, bridges are usually, they're a departure. And in this sense, it's just, to me, it's like a continuation of the song. But the last 2 lines of the bridge, they are the chorus hook. But maybe it's the way you were taught, or maybe it's the way we fought. But a smile never grins without tears to begin. For each kiss is a cry we all lost. Though nothing is left to gain, but for the banshee that stole the grave, because we find ourselves in the same old mess singing Drunken Lullabies. Getting that chorus hook after the bridge. Yeah. I'm sure there's songs that have done that. I can't recall off the top of my head. It's just a cool little trick you guys did there.
Yeah, I've no idea. You know, I mean, it's just going back to like not being given a license to formulate anything. It's just doing what you want to do, you know, and it makes perfect sense to me. You know what I mean?
Oh, there's not a part in this song that I would take out, or I would lengthen, or whatever you guys did here, there's some magic going on with the track.
Yeah, I think being a live band, Chris, is it's what it's all been about for this band, you know. And you know, this song is just trying to say what I really felt about Ireland at the time, you know, about how I grew up in Ireland. Are we still going to sing about the same old Ireland in 20 years' time? You know, and that's what it was all about. It was that anger.
Yeah.
You know, there is a lot of anger in that song.
You can hear it in the vocal. And again, it's camouflaged by how just, how much energy and how happy the song feels.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear the line like singing Drunken Lullabies,
yeah,
you think like, yay, we're drinking, but it's not really about that, you know.
No.
It's about everything else around us. I mean, like now we can celebrate. Now we can really drink about it, you know.
I love that. That's killer. And bear with me here. I got a bunch of notes on the musical interlude that happens after the bridge. And this is just great, this part. There's so much going on here that just makes you feel, again, like you're at the pub watching your favorite band. guitar is panned off to the right, and that distortion guitar hangs over for the first bar of 4 bars. And then there's a spoken vocal that says, "Right, come on," followed by an unintelligible talking. And that's what I was getting at when I was saying it feels like you're just at a pub. You hear some talking, you can't really make out what's going on. And this is happening with the kick drum and the banjo panned off right. And it sounds like bongos or tom overdubs are happening there. Do you remember?
It's probably a baron, an Irish drum that I play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what it is.
Been that. And I think the unrecognizable talking, because we all record together, that's probably me kind of suggesting to the drummer or whatever when to come in and what to do.
Yeah, you were directing.
Yeah. So that's probably what that mumbling that we couldn't take out because it's live. That's probably that mumbling is for sure.
It sounds like it's supposed to be there, which is absolutely beautiful. And here in the notes I wrote, this part is noticeably slower than the top of the song, which is so cool because I wouldn't want this part to be fast like the top. This kind of has to settle into where it's at here. It's so cool. On the 5th bar, there's a side stick hits that come in, like on the side of the snare, and the fiddle panned off left. On bar 8, a spirited is kind of in the left speaker that pans over to the right. It's super cool in headphones that you can really pick that out. And then a full band 16 bar reintro. On the back half, bars 9 through 16, the fiddle part really changes here.
Yes.
You haven't heard that, what's going on there in the rest of the song. And then almost sounds like at that part, we're joined by another distortion guitar maybe that comes in there, an overdub or something. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was meant to be like a musical bridge almost. Like in the sense that you have the banjo and you have the stick coming in and the baron and all that. And then we felt like when we kicked in, instead of maybe just doing the riff again or whatever, we would make it more of a fiddle solo. So I mean, that was intentional. I remember that because everybody knows that most of the songs I write have most 4 chords in them. You got to do with those chords what you can sometimes,
Exactly.
But Chris, most of the times they're there. It's just a matter of moving them around a bit. It's just an extension of the same chords,
Yeah, well, that what you're calling a musical bridge or musical interlude or whatever, that part is awesome. And it sets up verse 3.
Dwell on faces past like memories seem to fade. No color left but black and white, and soon will all turn gray. But maybe shadows rise to walk again with lessons truly learned. When the blossom flowers in each heart shall be the newfound flame.
I sit in and dwell on faces past, like memories seem to fade. No color left but black and white, and soon will all turn gray. But may these shadows rise to walk again, with lessons truly learnt, when the blossom flowers in each our hearts shall beat a newfound flame.
Yeah, it's like, how long are we going to have to look at murdered souls that have been murdered innocently in a bomb, walking down the street? I mean, I remember one time a bomb went off in Dublin, and when the bomb went off, I was sitting at a table in our flat in Dublin. My mother wasn't there, and the ground just shook. It felt like an earthquake, but I didn't know what an earthquake was because obviously in Ireland we don't have earthquakes. Well, we don't have, but I remember, Chris, my mother was in the city centre, and I sat there, and I didn't know at that time whether the key would go back into the hatch of the door and her open the door. And I sat there waiting for that door to open because I didn't know if she was in that part of town, And I always remember never wanting anybody to feel that ever. You know what I mean? And that's what that last verse is about. But maybe we can, and in the third verse, it's maybe, can we learn from all this and rise again? But listen, you know what I mean? Let's learn from what we've gone through, that the horrible, horrible fighting that we all went through. And can we end that fighting and move on and embrace. The last thing you want to embrace is another conflict. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Ireland, and that's why I'll never stop playing this song, because this is about conflict that we as a nation in Ireland went through. But unfortunately, it's what we're all going through. These conflicts never seem to end.
It evolves into the next one, it seems.
Yeah, and
yeah.
While I've gotten this one off my chest, I'm just glad to see that the song isn't meaningless in the sense of it actually came to fruition. What I was singing about, what I was hoping for, has actually come to fruition in Ireland. And I've said this, and it's a very naive thing to say. Don't get me wrong. I know it is. But, if we can have peace in Ireland, we can have peace anywhere. Is that the case? I don't know. I really don't. I would like to believe that, because that's what that song is about.
Which is so crazy for me, because every time I've been to Ireland, I feel like I'm at home. I feel relaxed. I'm not looking over my shoulder. I can't imagine it being like that there, although I know it was like that at one point, It's just amazing. After verse 3, we get into the last chorus. Chorus 3 is the same chorus, except we get the last two lines again. I swear, Dave, that the fiddle is louder here than it is anywhere else in the song. I think it's great. I'm thinking maybe it was mixed up a dB or two there. Maybe not. Yeah. I don't think my ears are fooling me. I love the last line. You hold out the singing, drunken lullabies. You hold it out legato there before the very last line, where the band ends together and the mix fades out. And, you said this, and I hear this a lot on the show, that this was just another song, just another one that you wrote, ended up being the first track on the record, named after the same title, Drunken Lullabies. But, here you are now, 21 years later. Think of what's happened, everything you explained with the conflict going on. And here you are talking about a song 21 years later, and it's just, to me, as fresh as it was the day you wrote it.
Yeah, and honestly, it's as fresh every night when we play it too. I think that's very important, Chris, like yourself, as songwriters, if it's meaningful to you and you do it in your way, it never gets old. I never go on stage going, oh God, we got to do this one again or that one again. I never ever feel that,
I don't either. And I've had people say to me, what songs do you can't stand playing? And I honestly, at this point in my career, I answer it like, never, because if I don't want to play it, I couldn't imagine trying to getting on stage, and I can't fool you. Yeah. It's the energy energy you feel from that audience that makes the song new every time.
And plus, I think when you're as bad as an acoustic guitar player as I am, you'll never learn how to play the fucking song. So there's always that as well,
We should probably end the show right there. Huh? Oh. No, can't get a better quote. Well, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for sitting in. Before we break, what would you like to leave the listeners with? I know you got a couple more shows on this current tour. What do you have after this?
Well, we have obviously St. Patrick's Day, which falls on a Friday night. Woohoo!
Whoa!
And we are in the Palladium.
Oh my gosh!
In Hollywood, which is always so much fun. And because it's the weekend, we end on a Sunday. We usually end on St. Patrick's Day when we do this little build-up. But this has been a long one, and the 19th is the last show. Yeah, so then we're off to Europe, as you know.
Absolutely, and I know we're going to see you over there at some of those. Absolutely. But listen, I meant everything I said at the top. I've been following your career since I was a kid. It's been an honor to get to know you, and congratulations.
Oh, Chris, thanks so much. It's so great talking to you. Good to talk to an old friend.
Hey, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed that conversation with Dave King, and I hope you're all enjoying your St. Patrick's Day week. Don't go anywhere. We got lots more Chris DeMakes a Podcast coming right up after a few words from our sponsors.
You may get a little excited when you shop at Burlington. Burlington saves you up to 60% off other retailers' prices every day. Will it be the low prices or the great brands? You'll love the deals. You'll love Burlington. I told you so.
I'm ready for my life to change.
ABC Sundays, American Idol is all new.
Give it your all. Good luck. Come out with the golden ticket.
Let's hear it.
This is a man's world.
I've never seen anything like it.
And a new chapter begins.
We're going to Hollywood!
Carrie Underwood joins Lionel Richie, Luke Bryan, and Ryan Seacrest on American Idol. New Sundays, 8/7 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
For a limited time, you can get KFC chicken with the sweet heat of hot honey. And after one bite, you'll wonder, how do bees make hot honey so hot? Are they special bees? Does KFC have dragon bees? Fire-breathing dragon bees that create spicy honey? No, silly. There's no such thing. KFC just partnered with Mike's Hot Honey to drizzle all over their crispy chicken. But dragon bees would be so cool. Try it now for only $7 or share a box with friends for $25. Prices and participation vary while supplies last. Taxes, tips, and fees extra.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Each week on the One Hit Thunder podcast, we take a look into a one-hit wonder band or artist to determine if they deserved more success or if they were lucky to even have a hit at all. With new episodes every Wednesday and special guests from the worlds of music and comedy, we always have nonstop fun, and maybe, if we're lucky, we discover some new favorite music. So if you love great songs and you often find yourself asking, whatever happened to that band? Check out One Hit Thunder wherever you get your podcasts.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes a Podcast, all you have to do is email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Speak Easy Streets, a multicultural group of musicians from Israel, Chile, France, Cuba, and New York City, who offer an eclectic mix of swing, gypsy jazz, punk, and hip-hop. Here's a snippet of their song, Virus Pirates.
They think all the swords with an infection. The time was getting closer to invade. The 10-day Buccaneers, it's time to kick them in the rear. Let's go and start this raid.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
So, Chris, I thought Dave's story of perseverance was amazing, especially the way he restarted his career by painting houses and playing at bars at night. Like, he had to do a complete reset, and I just thought that was amazing.
No, I know, and I even mentioned to him I thought it was a little bit daunting, the prospect of, like, hitting the L.A. bar and club scene, but it wasn't to him. He just kind of felt it was the next step, and look what happened.
Dude, that is such a vague thing for someone to say to you, like, just got to play the bars, man. Luckily, Flogging Molly found a real home in LA, a place where they could play regularly. But yeah, if someone told me that, I'd be like, well, not going to do that. You know, like I'm going to do a different career.
Absolutely. I mean, he made it sound like this is just what you do, but haven't like thousands upon thousands of people set out to do just that and, you know, didn't have success with it, especially in the LA scene of how spread out and insane it is out there. But, you know, he comes from that, pull up your bootstraps and let's get it going. You know, that work hard ethic.
I was laughing so hard when he said that Epic told him that they wanted him to sound like this, and they put on Michael Bolton. Nothing against Michael Bolton, but that's almost like that's a cliche of like, what do you mean you want me to sound like Michael Bolton? That sounds like something from like a comedy movie. That's ridiculous.
I know, and it's amazing that Epic retained his contract after Fastway, because by that point, you know, hard rock and metal were kind of passé and on their way out. Then they want to turn him into Michael Bolton. I didn't get that either. And, you know, I had mentioned, Chris, that Joe Sib from Side One Dummy at the time, you know, mentioning to me, hey, we just signed them, you know, I think he said the Mollies or Flogging. And I didn't know who he was talking about, but they just had this groundswell in Los Angeles. And I remember him saying, you got to see this band. Next thing I know, they're on the Warped Tour and they were just killing it.
Chris, there are certain things that are said on this podcast that I will never forget. Recently, we had Ben Lee on, and the thing he said about, like, if you have fun when you're recording, then the people will have fun listening to it. And I think about that all the time now. And Dave said something that you've said things along this line, too, that I'm never going to forget. But he was talking about how when he was talking to Angus Young from AC/DC, how he said, whether AC/DC's playing with the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, they're always going to be AC/DC. And I got to keep that in mind too, because I got to tell you, and I don't think there's really anything wrong with this, but over the years, my band, we've toured with all kind of different styles of bands. We've toured with Less Than Jake. We toured with, you know, bands that are more punk, bands that are more just like rock, whatever. And we're always thinking about our set like, oh, what will appeal to this crowd's fans? Let's tailor our set to that. Maybe you just got to be yourself and just do you out there. I loved that. I loved when he talked about that.
It's so true. There's not many bands at the end of the day, like the Beatles, that, you know, it's kind of like you got this amazing recipe. And, you know, the Beatles started out with vegetable soup, and by the end of it, they had beef Wellington. I mean, they had like this roast, this thing. It's like, it was so far from where they came from. Not many bands can do that. You look at even like the Stones, let's say, look at their set list. It's all the staple songs that sound like the Stones. The experimental stuff sometimes just goes to the wayside. And I totally get that. At the end of the day, you can just be who you are, and that's what the audience, I think, appreciates from you.
You know, I've learned a little more recently just due to doing after party episodes or whatever about like Ireland's history, especially this history that isn't even that old, but he brought up the Good Friday Agreement. Now, I didn't know what the Good Friday Agreement was, but it was on April 10th of 1998. It was the agreement that ended most of the violence of the Troubles, which was the political conflict in Northern Ireland that had been going on since the 60s, that I've learned a lot about recently. But, you know, I didn't really learn about that in school. I had to learn about that on my own, really, you know. So I thought that was an interesting thing that he brought up, and it was a big part of the story, you know.
And I don't know if you know this or not, and I didn't mention it to Dave, but Less Than Jake has a song called The Troubles on our See the Light album. Yeah, that's in reference to that whole thing over in Ireland. So pretty crazy.
Just in general, man, Dave King, he was just full of amazing stories. I'm sure you could have done hours upon hours of the stories he told, like playing a random pub in Holland and then the next night playing with the Rolling Stones. Like, that's just, you know, I'm sure he's full of crazy stories. He's had such an insane career, and I thought that episode was so awesome, man. So good.
I did too. I was so excited to have a St. Patrick's Day themed episode, and I couldn't think of a better band than the Mollies to do it. And like you said, he's just so humble. It's like you're talking to someone out one night, and he just keeps, you know, I could have talked to Dave for hours, but he's been out there now, doing what he does for the better part of, probably over 40 years now. And that's just awesome.
Yeah. Something about talking to somebody with the Irish accent. It's just so charming. I want to have a pint with that guy. I just want to sit down, tell me stories. I mean, I think that it's funny. He talked about that. That's like a big part of Irish culture, is having a beer and telling a story. Maybe it's a little bit of a tall tale, or maybe it's an exaggerated story, whatever. But like, I just think it's so cool. It makes a whole new appreciation for Flogging Molly too, that I got from this episode.
Yeah. And not to take anything away from their songs. They have great songs. They have great lyrics, as we know from this episode, but it really is just the style of this music. It is so festive and it's so happy. You hear it. It's just infectious. You can't help but like it. I feel like bands like them, Flogging Molly, they do kind of have a little bit of an advantage. They can get in front of really any crowd. And it's just, if you're in the right mindset, you're going to have fun with it.
Hey, Chris, I wanted to tell you something that I noticed that he said, and I was surprised a little bit by what you said about it. You brought up to him that the lyrics don't rhyme in the song, which, yeah, they don't rhyme, but he makes it work with the way he delivers them.
Yeah.
And dude, Less Than Jake does that a good bit. You have a lot of stuff that doesn't rhyme in your songs that you make work. Especially like you talk about the days where you didn't write the lyrics necessarily, but you're writing the music. You're good at that. I don't think you gave yourself enough credit for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I guess that is a correct assessment. There's a lot of times it's like, okay, he's not bending on this lyric. I have to make it work
right.
phonetically here. How's this going to happen? So it is a bit a bit of a puzzle at times.
Yeah. So when you said that, I'm like, Chris, you're good at that. Maybe you were just being humble or whatever. But anyway, man, this was a great episode, and I hope everybody out there enjoyed it. And I hope that you'll celebrate responsibly and have a lot of fun this week for St. Patrick's Day. We figured we'd release this on Monday. You have a full week to enjoy this episode before the big day, which lands on a Friday this year when we're releasing this episode.
That's right. So happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody out there. This has been a wonderful episode. Please join the Chris DeMakes a Podcast Facebook group. It's a lot of fun. Go over there, join it. And get in there on some discussions with us. We have a great time. And please give me a follow on Instagram at @LessThanChrisD. And I'm still doing those custom songs. If you want info about a custom song for you or that special someone, hit me up at chrisdemakes@gmail.com and I'll get right back to you. Want to thank this week's guest, Dave King, for sitting in with us. And we'll see you next week.
Every listener to Too Much Effing Perspective knows that my co-host Alan Keller is a music nerd. And right up there in his pantheon with the Beatles and Elvis Costello is The Clash. So Alan, it's one thing for you to be a nerd, but how did you rope in a cool guy, 311's Nick Hexum, into a full-on Clash geek fest on our show?
Well, first of all, Alex, it was your idea.
Oh, right.
Second, Nick actually jammed with The Clash's Joe Strummer in a supergroup that included Flea and Tom Morello.
Okay, well, there is that.
And finally, one member of The Clash cited This Is Spinal Tap, the reason our show even exists, as his favorite movie.
Which one?
Hey, if you want to find out, you got to listen to Too Much Effing Perspective. That's Too Much EFFING Perspective. The only podcast you crank up to 11.
This is the story of Whitney Houston.
This is the story of Kurt Cobain.
Of George Michael, of Otis Redding, of Amy Winehouse, of Michael Hutchence, Bob Marley. This is the story of Prince.
It's a new podcast series.
About how they died, why they died, and why we're still talking about them so long after.
It's like nothing you've ever heard before.
It's storytelling.
But it's more than that, because rock stars,
they tell us how we feel. They change our mood.
They change the clothes we wear, the people we hang out with,
the way we remember things.
It's them who give us those ludicrous moments, the ones where you're
jumping around, singing your heart out, feeling understood.
And it's those moments we'll help you remember, the ones you're thinking about right now.
That feeling. It's coming soon from Crowd Network.
Just search for Death of a Rock Star on your podcast app.
And subscribe now.